All right, good evening again. So we will start, actually, let's start by standing and let's just do a baseline. I know that we're since we're doing mobility, great time to do a baseline, gives us the opportunity to check in with the body, to see what the body's doing. We'll recheck the baseline at the end so you can see where you've come. And if at any time throughout the practice you want to check your baseline again and see how you're doing, go for it. It's a good opportunity. Or if you check your baseline, everything's working well, you can always do, in a sense, another baseline. I mean, you can start with something as simple as just raising your arms over your head, remember, or touching your toes or squatting or whatever. So even if you have an issue, like a hamstring issue or something, you can do something very different and actually notice the difference between when we do something. So see how the body is integrated. So anyway, if you want to simply just reach down and touch your toes, nice simple baseline motion. Just notice what's going on. Notice the pull against your glutes or the hamstring, maybe the stiffness or ease in your lower back. If your hands do touch or don't touch the ground, how straight or bent are your knees, all of those types of things. However, we also want to notice how we come back up. Is it easy? Does it feel like your body stacks well? Do you feel wobbly, out of balance, or disoriented? Go ahead and stand with your feet parallel to each other. We'll just do a little check-in here as well. Take your hands down by your sides. Keep your knees slightly bent and at ease. And let's just take a couple of nice long deep breaths. Close your eyes if it's comfortable. And just kind of notice what you notice. Notice how your feet hit the ground. Notice how your the weight of your legs is. If all of your weight feels like it's on one side more than the other. Notice if your knees feel turned in, turned out, one or the other, or both. And then just shift back and forth from toe to heel. Rock, and you can make it go further forward. Does one side feel more steady than the other? Does it feel like if you go too far forward, you're going to fall, or your glutes are going to grab, or does one glute grab more than the other? And we'll just stand in tall balance, eyes open, and we'll do some breathing just with our eyes open. Just nice, long, slow, deep breaths. Try to breathe into your rib wall if you want to touch your ribs, or if you want to touch your belly, or you put your hands on your back. Giving yourself that option and opportunity to really check in, tongue against the roof of your mouth, feel the breath at the back of your throat. Expand through the wall of your rib cage. Let that breath reset your nervous system. Look up with your eyes, keep breathing. Look down with your eyes. Look to your left with your eyes. Look to your right with your eyes. Look diagonal up. Look diagonal down. Look diagonal up on the other side. Look diagonal down. And then roll the eyes all the way around. And then roll the eyes back the other direction. Notice if one side made you feel a little bit more uneasy or out of balance. And then again, let's just now nod our head, lift that chin, keep breathing. Look up, let your eyes come up, look down, chin to your sternum, look up, look down. So remember, movements like just a head nod can be what's called neurological flossing. So it's moving the nerve inside its channel, pulling against the length of the nerve, releasing tension there. Noticing also these muscles here, sternocleidomastoid mastoid, of course, the scalenes attaching into the neck. The rotators kind of holding on. And then let's look left and right, look over your shoulder, look over your shoulder. You may notice clicking, cracking, or popping, or maybe just some range of motion difference. And we're doing indirect before direct, so that's why we're not focusing on the hamstrings immediately. And then let's just do a simple cross crawl. Right hand touches left leg, left hand touches right leg. Remember, whatever happens with the head, when the head moves, so goes the rest of the body. So very often our head is dictating how the rest of our body is doing or feeling. Whether your head is pushed forward normally or pulled back or hanging down, it can actually put stress on different areas of the body. Do about 3 or 4 more, still trying to breathe through that nose. And last one. Good. Go ahead and pause. Let's recheck our baseline. Forward fold as we go. And then notice what you notice as you fold forward. And again, as you roll back up. Close your eyes and notice the weight of your legs balanced in. If that feels more even, more level, more stable, more balance between the inner and outer thigh, glutes, hamstrings, and calves. All right, so we're going to start actually with a nice simple. Hopefully you're better. Maybe you're about the same. Hopefully, hopefully not worse. But hopefully you're now starting to notice a process of releasing tension and pressure. So simple things, hopefully to give great results. Hands on your thighs, and you're going to slide your hands down your shins and then come back up. So you're engaging and moving the hips first, not moving the back. So it's not drop the head, lift the head, it's push the hips back and then come back up. So in a sense, like a standing knees rocking, push the hips back and stand back up. Bend the knees slightly so that you take any tension out of the back, where there's no rounding to your back as you go forward. Push the hips back, come back up. Let's do about 5 more. Again, go ahead and keep on breathing. One more time here. We're going to stay down. Go ahead and stop at about your knees, and you're going to round your back and lift your tailbone. Now, this is a pretty familiar movement to kind of the old kind of 80s exercise where you arch the back and tilt it and tuck the tailbone. They did it a little bit more aggressively with a little bit more movement involved with it, but it's a great movement of the back, a great easy cat-cow. Exhale, curl. Inhale, lift the tailbone. Exhale, tuck. Inhale, lift. One more time. Exhale, tuck around the back. Inhale, lift. Good. And then stand up. And let's rotate around the torso. Make sure you lift the back heel. Arms can swing and hit the sides. Very simple motion. Something that I think we just kind of neglect is that nice spiraling movement of the spine. Add the head if you can. Look down and around behind you. Look to kind of eye level or head level. Make sure you're lifting the leg you're moving away from. And then look up and behind you. Look behind you. Now that may make you feel a little bit off balance or dizzy. And one more time, each side. Good. And let's just roll the shoulders up, around, and back. A little crunchy in my right shoulder. So I was on my roller earlier today and I was noticing my right shoulder was pretty tight. You know, just doing kind of a nice easy H position as I was on the roller head to hips. And one more time, roll up, back, and around. Let's take your arms up and over your head. Take your hands behind your head, lift your chest. Open that chest. My thumbs are pointing down my neck. And I'm actually using the index fingers underneath the skull to almost pull my neck up. And I'm using my thumbs down the line of my spine, but not touching my spine, but almost kind of in line with my neck. And I'm giving a little traction, but at the same time, lifting my chest up. There's a little pull in my back. It's a great stretch to do when if you're sitting for a long period of time. Breathing. Again, being very indirect before we go direct into the hamstrings, back, the knee, and any of that area. And then take the hands behind the back, interlace your fingers, pull your shoulder blades in, down, and back as you lift your chin up this time, and then drop your chin right in. Getting long, some length to drop that tailbone as it's comfortable. Breathe through the rib wall, and let's nod the head. Again, a great stretch while you're seated. Just because it's something easy, you can grab onto a chair, you could sit tall, just getting yourself out of that kind of compressed, slouchy chair position. And then release. Go ahead and again, just roll your shoulders up, back, and around. Let's recheck the baseline one more time. Inch forward, come all the way down. Notice that that's a little bit easier. And then roll again yourself up. Check the return trip as well. Good. Hopefully, again, that's a little bit better. Let's come on down to the mat. Sitting down on the mat, we're going to start with some simple rotations. And so bring those legs out in front of you. You can check the little freckle on your leg now if you want. You can even make this your new baseline. Touch your ankles, toes, whatever, and just kind of feel that length in your back. Now, very often when we're sitting on our hips low to the ground, you're going to feel the stretch more in your lower back. If you lift yourself up onto a block, a bolster, a chair, or a blanket, a pillow, or whatever, you're actually going to stretch the hamstrings more and less of the lower back. So you choose, or you can also bend the knees slightly too, and then you're going to feel the hamstrings get stretched as well. Just another deep breath, fold forward, and then let's return to upright. Take your right leg in. Let's hook that left elbow around the right leg and just rotate towards the right leg. Breathe in. Now, depending on what you ate or haven't eaten today, you might feel this as you rotate. Breathing. Even though I try to eat by about 5:30 on nights like this, I still can kind of feel like, it hasn't fully digested everything. Inhale and center. To extend your right leg, let's go with your left. I'm going to turn all the way around so you can see me a little bit better. Breathe and get that knee in, hook that elbow around that thigh and rotate. So that way I'm not putting a lot of weight in my left hand. I'm really working to find length, not just to find rotation. Breathing. Very often, because of where the hamstrings and the glutes connect, one can be affecting the other. The hamstring can affect the glute can affect the hamstring. So we have to look at both of them. Inhale, back to center. Let's take the fingertips, knees stay bent. Fingertips behind, lift that chest, open the heart, push into the heel of the hands and just feel the length of the upper back. Now remember, when we move the upper back, we move the lower body as well. Breathing. Take your hands up and behind your head and then just rotate to your left. Try not to move your hips too much. And then center, you can see where your movement is a little bit stuck. And then back into center. Let's take the movement all the way to the ground. Go ahead and lay all the way back in your back. And before, again, we get into a hamstring stretch, you can have your one leg straight or bent. If your hamstring's bugging you at all, just keep it bent for the first. We'll do this a couple of times. Draw the right knee into the chest and get some pressure up against the right wall of the rib cage. A really great passive hamstring stretch is really just legs up the wall. So via Krita Karani, which is the kind of the Sanskrit term for legs up the wall. Extend your right leg up and just hold your right leg with your own strength. And just let your legs sit there. So it's a little bit more passive. If you have a strap, you can hold it with a strap, but you're just trying to find some passive stretch of that leg. If it's quivering and shaking, give your hands some hold and relax the movement. Drop the tailbone a little bit, tuck the tailbone. See if you can find some alternate just position to find release. And then let's bend the right knee, bring the left knee in. So same thing. Your right knee can stay bent as you bring your left knee into your chest. I noticed we haven't met for a while on Wednesdays. That's nice that we're here tonight. Thank you guys for coming. Breathe deep into the rib wall. And then again, let's take that left leg up. And again, maybe your left leg is tighter than your right. And, you know, even very often hamstring stuff can come from SI, problem there. It can come from your piriformis, the nerve or the muscle that presses very often against the sciatic nerve line. So it can come from a couple of different spots. It can come from a tight sacrum. Breathing, just hold that leg there. And again, if you're getting real shaky wobbly, then you can bend the knee or hold the knee a little bit. Just kind of let the leg relax into the arms. Again, laying against a wall, having your leg straight up the wall, like you're in a doorway, your leg just holds straight up the wall. It can be a really nice passive stretch. And then let's bend that knee in. We're going to get that left leg straight now, bring the right knee in, and let's extend that right leg straight up. So both legs are now straight. Now, if that's not available to you, you're just going to go right back to the left leg bent. Breathing. This time, I want you to push that right heel. So get longer in the back side of that right leg. Now, of course, these are not dynamic stretches. These are more static stretches. And if you can, you're going to lift your head and chest up, and you're going to pull yourself slightly toward that leg. Again, if you're getting the shakes and real quivery, lower something, take something out of the equation. Very easy to do is take that left knee and bend it again. That's the thing that really made this movement a little bit more intense. And then let's bend the right knee and put the right leg down. Bring the left knee into the chest, extend the right leg all the way out, and then reach that left heel up. Now remember, we're working from the hip to the heel, not just straightening the knee. The straightening of the knee can add a lot of stress to this movement, but you're going to add a length in two directions. You may feel this inner thigh as well, some of your adductors, and we're going to get into some more dynamic movements in a moment. Push into the ground, press into the sky, feel that length on the whole back line of that left leg towards the sky. And then let's bend that left knee to the chest, right knee into the chest. And let's go right into a hip release movement, which is just hip circles. Now, there's two ways you can really do this. You can let your pelvis rock with your knees, or you can keep your pelvis still and only go as far as your knees will travel. So you choose how much motion you want and or do a variation of both. So again, you can let the hips rock, or you can keep the hips more level. And then let's go the other direction. And speed, of course, is important. How fast did you go? You should go fast enough so that you can feel the movement happening, but not so fast that you can't tell what's going on. So if you're just moving for the sake of moving, maybe it's just you just got to get it done. But you're better off doing less than more with a lot of these movements and feeling what's happening instead of just doing the range, just getting it done. Good. Go ahead and pause. We're going to take that right knee one more time into the chest, extend the left leg, take the right knee across the midline of the body, and let's just rotate the torso, or yeah, from the rib cage. You should feel this mostly in your ribs, not so much in the hips, but maybe in the glute a little bit. And make sure that right shoulder is back. Your hips are pretty stacked over each other here as well. Bring that right knee back into the chest, bring your left knee in, drop that right leg, extend that right leg, and let's take the left knee across. Now, my right leg isn't terribly straight or extended, as nor was my left leg when I was down on the ground, but you can work in that position too. I'm going to come back in. So I'm going to show you a movement. We're not going to really do it because I don't know where your setup is in your room. So I'm going to show you two things real quick. So I'm right next to my wall, but I'm going to get up against the wall, and a great stretch for the inner thigh is going to be against the wall. My little breathe sign. I'm not going to have my mat with me, so hopefully I can get up okay and not slide around. But you want to hug the wall or any wall with your hips. And then take your legs literally up the wall. And then from there, pause there, hang out on the wall for a little bit. You'll get a passive stretch on the wall. And then as you're comfortable, let your legs drop out. Now I've got a very long wall. And so, but I'm going to get this really beautiful stretch in my inner thigh, which is also going to connect into my deep adductor muscles, the muscles that take my legs together, and also the inner part of my hamstring. So depending on where the muscle of your hamstring you're tight or your knees are tight, this is a really great stretch, hard to do on the ground because of gravity and because of the pressure on the hip joint. Great to do on the wall. So you can see my legs aren't really flopping on the ground or anything. And you do have to have enough space to get your legs wide. When you're done, you're going to bend your knees and just pause for a couple of breaths. And again, you can passively put your legs up the wall. You want your butt pretty close to the wall. You can even just do one leg at a time. It's a great way to stretch. I'm going to come back to the mat. And then let's get into a traditional kind of knees rocking position. But we're going to do a kickstand knees rocking. So I'm going to open my mat a little bit so I have more cushion. So we're going to do what's called a kickstand knees rocking. That's a great knees rocking position to really open up again, kind of the inner and outer thigh. So I'm going to sink back and then come forward. My foot is flat on the ground and my head and chest are up. It is kind of important to have the body not all rounded, but you want the length of the spine. You want that extension because those hamstrings are also nice extensor muscles. They are your quadriceps do more contraction of the knee, hamstrings do more extension of the knee or work the back side in that way. So they're a very eccentric moving muscle. And then we're going to turn the toe up. Just let that toe come up. Now, if you need more cushion for your knee, just of course, do what you need to do and make more cushion for your mat underneath your knee, whatever works for you. And breathing, of course, through your nose as best you can. Take that knee in and let's go to the other side. Just extend that leg out. And we're going to go again to that leg, that knee's rocking from a kickstand position. My foot is flat to the ground. So I'm kind of getting more length for that inner thigh. And then I'm going to turn my toe up and change the position slightly. Now, this could bother your knee because of the weight on your knee, of course, or the compression of the back of the knee. So do what you need to do to modify. And then let's go back into a regular knees rocking. So eyes forward, head forward, chest forward, nice and long. You may notice you can get real deep into those hips, more so than you could before, or more so than you normally can. May feel nice. So we're going to do 5 more of this. And typically with most mobility work, I like to just have a timer, a general idea, like I do something for 30 seconds or a minute instead of counting. That way I can get into kind of getting complete and I just do what I do. So we're going to go through, bring your right knee forward, single leg, sit nice and tall, hip flexor, a little stretch right here. So I want the hips forward. And then you're just going to begin to rock forward and back. So range of motion isn't gigantic, but just rock back and forth, kind of dropping into your right heel. Keep that front heel on the ground. And then we're going to bring the hand to the ground. You're getting a little bit more length in the hamstring of the front leg. And then we're going to go back as far as you can and then come forward. Go back as far as you can and then come forward. Now, you can curl your toe under to keep yourself from going back too far. You can also put a block underneath your hip so you know how far you can go. And so you don't go too far. You have something to kind of rest on back there. One more time, and then we're going to stay back. So hold back as best you can. I've got a block underneath my leg. If you don't, you can be up and just fold forward. Or you can get down to your block as low as you can and fold forward. Good, and then we'll come back up, just holding the breath, holding the position for about 5 breaths, 5 counts. And let's do the other side. So again, starting with that hip flexor stretch, hip flexors get very tight from sitting and then are weak from sitting. Just forward and back. We're not trying to overstretch those hip flexors because we never want to pull them or overstretch them from the spine, but they do attach to the spine. One more, then we're going to bring our hand to the ground. So you're a little bit lower. Again, depending on how much time you spend on your knees can be more tender or less. And then let's go further back, as far back as you can go. Again, you can put that block back there if you want. So I can sit all the way onto my block and come forward. Great over movement for the landing knee. Get some good range of motion there. And then let's hold back. Go as low as you can go and fold over that front leg. And then let's come back up. Breathe in. Tuck that leg in. And let's repeat into our knees rocking. Eyes up, head up, chest up. And then we're going to do just an old fashioned, which is just the downward facing dog. So we're going to sink back, hold, shift forward, lift the hips up, and let's come into a nice bent knee downward facing dog. Now you can always go your forearms on something like this. You just want to keep the knees from caving or the feet from caving. And just get straight. Now, if you can, straighten out your legs a little bit more and just allow the knees to only be slightly bent. Remember, the weight shouldn't just be all in the hands. Lift that tailbone as you can. Great stretch for the hamstrings, even though it's an inverted position. Lift that tailbone, straighten out those legs. You're just going to hold this for about 2 or 3 more breaths. Bend the knees back into the ground. Let's go right into a child's pose, arms out in front, head down, chin. Breathe into the back line of the body. Open the rib wall. And then let's come up again to all fours. So when we're dealing with the back line of the body, hamstrings, glutes, let's get into those skiers. So skiers are the money for glute, hamstring, shoulder. Steadies and stabilized, activates those muscles. So right shoulder working with left hip, left shoulder working with right hip, vice versa. Breathing. Let's go 5 more each side. Two more each side. Fully extend that leg as you go back. Don't just let it kind of half or keep that foot relaxed too much. Really work the extension of the back as well as the leg. One more each side. And then let's come down. Go ahead and come all the way down to your mat. And let's start with our head on the mat. I'm going to take my glasses off because I'm banging them. And let's just get into just a relaxed pose. Forehead to your hands, but make sure your hands are far enough out in front of you so your neck stays long. You don't get all jammed up here. I'm going to keep my head slightly elevated so I can talk. And just breathe, exhale. Now, if that bothers your feet, having them down, then just curl your toes under for a little bit. Tuck your tail or drop your tailbone towards your heels. You'll feel your core kind of engage a little bit here. You're not really relaxing in the same way as kind of trying to sleep. And then take your arms out wide to a T. Take your head towards your left shoulder. I'm going to let my toes drop in. Pick your left heel towards your hamstring, and then roll your left leg towards the right side of your body. So in mobility work, this is known as a scorpion or a prone quarter roll, lower body quarter roll. Look over the shoulder that your leg is coming from. Take that leg up as high as you can over your backside. Breathing. Let's do 2 more on each side. Last one on each side. And then again, come back to your mat, little wiggling down the mat, and then just go back to head down, chin in, and just rest for a second. All right, bring your head up, glasses back on. Roll onto your right side. I'm doing that on my right side because that way I face you easier. And we're going to grab that top leg, which should be your left leg. And let's pull that left leg back. If you can, bring the right knee up. So the right and left leg almost make it 90-90. This is a quadricep stretch primarily, but your hamstring is a little bit involved. Again, it's not about pulling your heel to your butt, but about slightly pushing your foot into your hand. Watch that your ribs don't flare. Pull those ribs back into alignment with the body. Breathe. So it's almost a half bretzel. And then release. You're going to take that top leg. Gets weird. This gets pretzel-y. Bottom knee is going to hook. So bring that bottom knee behind the top leg, and you're going to use your top hand and push that knee away. So you're opening up the hip from a real different position. If you feel out of position or out of space, just move your torso back a little bit. There's all kinds of ways to get into those hips, those glutes. And then release. Unlace those legs. Use your top hand. Let's bring yourself up. Let's go to the other side. Lay on your left arm. Ideally, bringing your left knee up. Take your right foot behind you this time. And then bring that right shoulder back to you. Again, watch the flaring rib cage. Breathing. Feel that stretch in those quads. So remember, if you have tight hamstrings, you might as well go look at your quads, and maybe your quads are giving you some problems as well. And maybe you're overdoing one muscle than another when you're exercising. You know, obviously, if you fall, it's one way to overuse the side of your body. Or if you overstretch, like in tennis or something movement-wise. Make sure that right shoulder is open. Pull that right leg back if you have a little bit more. Remember, it's not so much about the heel to the butt, but about the foot behind you. The knee in line with the hip as best you can. And then let's bring that right foot forward. And you're going to use that left leg to push, to use as a stopper. And then you may need to move the upper body away a little bit and then press into that right leg. So remember, sometimes Tightness is also about weakness or about imbalance and strength. So one side might be more strong than the other, but of course, injury takes over everything. And then release. Let's go back one more time to our stomach. Just make a nice little pillow, forehead down, elbows out in front. Breathing, let's pull the tailbone towards the heels so you're not just getting into your lower back. So your core is slightly engaged. And then relax. Push yourself up and back. Let's go through the child's pose. Nice and long, head down, chin in. Let's get a little back, upper back thoracic movement. Take the body, still in the child's pose. The arms go to the right as the hips sink to the left. For that length on the outside of the left rib wall as you sit into the left hip. So your body's in a slight crescent. Exhale. Ease. And then walk those hands back in. Let's take both hands to the left side as you sink into the right. Oh, that feels so beautiful underneath those ribs. Feel that underneath the back side of the arm. Walk the hands back to center. Come into all fours. Let's just do a nice, easy cat-cow. Lift the tailbone, lift the chest, pull the belly in around the back. Lengthen the spine. For how crazy Joseph Pilates was about length and extension, movement, toes pointed and all that kind of stuff. He was a master at being able to refine the articulation and the ease of the movement through the spine. Two more. Pull the belly in, round back, chin towards the sternum. Walk the hands back enough so you can just kind of feel the rounding. Let's lift the chest, just nod the head. Once again, you can flop back or drop back into your feet. I did this on the airplane. I would just lean forward as I came in and I just nod my head. It just really made my back feel a lot better. Sitting on a plane for 5 hours, not my favorite. Look over your right shoulder, look up, look over your left shoulder. Feel that movement through the rib wall. Remember, your breath is part of your movement, so utilize the breath to assist in a better, deeper, more connected movement. The deeper you can breathe in connection to the movement, not so much over breathing, just kind of finding that assisted space is really nice. And then let's come forward. I'll grab my glasses. Come into half kneeling. Take both arms up and overhead reach. Take your left hand to your right knee or whatever knee's forward, opposite hand of that knee. Again, a rotation. Use that knee as an opposition to the hand. Back to center. Go to the other side. Rotate away. Turn in toward that leg. Back to center. And however you want to get up, bringing yourself all the way up. Let's roll those shoulders up, back, and around again. Take your arms up and overhead. Exhale down. Again, take your arms up and over your head. Exhale down. Once more, take your arms up and over your head. If you want to revisit this a couple more times, exhale down. Let's do one more time, just to make sure everybody's now standing. Lengthen one more time. Inhale up, hold, feel from the arches, through the inner thigh, through the rib cage, through the arms. Exhale down, and let's recheck our baseline. Head down, breathing. And walk yourself back up and notice the return trip. All right. I hope that helped you feel a little bit better. Breathing.